당은 저기 산지의 고방 투비 취도 다 남냠len 제알이야 네 나주에라면 냠네 다 라마 Chöpa 세디 당은 저기 디냠len 제제 산지의 고방 투비에 되는 냠len 제 신바니 아니 인자는 저기 생각하는 쉬버선 당보 당은 저 제군로 자주 심기 군내라고 계신지방 아니리 세디 아주 자주 심기 군내라 안데 심지어 담지기 되는 산지의 고방 투비 취도 상여 도바 쇼스임베 자주 셈게네 디네 심지어 담지기 되는 도바 쇼스 셈게 디네 셈게네 아니야 아치 개비우사 답 네 개비고 조사 답 될래 개브르지 어두스네 디바르 가시간제 쉬사바레.
Good evening. So we started last week to look at the Lama Chöpa. Now, Guru Puja, this is a practice that encompasses all the trainings for mental development to progress and eventually achieve enlightenment. And last week we started to look at the text, particularly looking at refuge, which is thereafter followed by the generation of bodhicitta, the determination to become enlightened for the sake of others.
저기 접수저에게 접유사 답야들이야 지가 라마 이남 상예 자슴사데 같이 몽보지 부사 때문에 도나닝보 뒤나 숨나네 뒤로 거래 라마 이남 상예 시사 상예 상유권 조샤로와 네 디멘비게다 파베 자주세마 파바데서 자산 네 파베기뉴 게뉴고 조나 자로와 데네 코로주기 투규라 예디겐게 네 지게 가소리 고된다 남된세디게 네 최고조 샤르고와 제사디네자 다gem니 고조 숨나 뒤루고 개뷰디 디레다 디네자 당아서 키신텔이야 겹소조 어세다다 만주기 두스체네 디주로와.
Last week we looked at the verse on refuge. So here we saw in the visualization, one visualizes your Lama and Yidam and Buddha and the Buddha together, and seeing that in essence they are all indistinguishable and encompass all three refuges. Encompass the Buddha refuge, which is the teacher of the Buddha Dharma. Then it encompasses the Dharma refuge, which is the minds of true cessations and true paths, as well as the Sangha refuge, the Arya beings. So all are included within the refuge.
안디네 인자당 저기 남바상이 비기 개뷰딜이야 군조 숨샤고와 지사 진자 군조 숨다 상기 군조스데 겹된게 남된 지겐바 겹된 법보세야지 디네 개뉴 고조세야디 남된 샤바데 가나주 냠는 지리 qab래 가나주 로지겐게 로바지겐디다 개뉴 고조세야디 개뉴 고조디지 가나주 로바체 당가나주도 세네 딱 상기 군조게 냠는 된 샤비게다 아주 겹유제다 겹수 조상한테 가는 조그레세리 당하는 저기 산주권 저기 겹된 받을 나는 권 겹된 받을이야 안에 이시해야지 뭐 이체 가서 산계라 안에 킹기 차상 교연 탐제단 자와 연대 탐제대 된바 제와 요바자 가서리야 된바 겹 탑람 땡들이야 이시체 직제 다디는 아주기 디 냠는 지류갑라 아니 냠는 지류갑라 아니 아주리야 아주 로바치겐디 로치겐이 게니고죠 데라 게리고지 이치 가티 로치에들 이시 게리고줄 이치지야지 제가 가르스는 기둥고죠 코롱 산예기 순시별 남들에 냠는 귤에 깨지 코롱 냠냠 유에디게 파베 가서 자들 지난 디네에서 코롱 산예기 지수주가 장안줄이야 투세위团냥 안줄이야 아니 로바치기가 자다 데려야 제기래서 이시지야지 당안서도 쓰는 냠는 제발라 때네 아니 갈리그래서는 안주 냠는 제도 제 지마다 출연 쇠발라서 검제 지기 다음에 봤다와 검두스 냠는 제디로 와다 디 냠는 제도 갑라 가린 것은 안주 귤라 아니 녀모바 차상 빵배 빵보 꼭된지 토용도 꼭된다 남된세야지 마 파베큐 남ning 안주를 끼용도 디니 캡고에 된 안주를 끼어버려 제가 디끼어도 안주 코발에다 레다 녀모 코발에 끼어와들 타루고래 지나 타루고래 제가 디네 장아주게 꼭된디 녀모바 빵배 빵보 꼭된는 안주를 끼어도다 최고죠 디 안주를 레어도 디네 안주 코발에 타와래 끼어버려 안주 코와들 끼어버려다 di kyugo re se changa naba sanje bigi konjol ya konjo se di kyap yul de ya kyap su jodang di del ya ani yishi je da de je yiji jeba je da de yang sanje gi yiji je da de dang zo sanje gi pa nga zo korwe dunga de je dunga lo kyap je sanje ya nga zo ding re sen bigi nga zo je mo je sanje ya gwe she ge sen be de ne ma re je changa nga zo yiji je di ga sen sanje gi lam ma no sung ba de ya yishi ta ji je da 아니 기둥 거지 로 제기를 선배 될 태수면 봐 이지제 다 딩아 저 냠는 제조 꼭된 딩아 줄에 깨와 있나 당아 저 코벨을 저기를 해서 이제 제주도 지어야 돼 디네 이지 진행아 저기 냠는 제요도 다 코발에 간스 교부래라나 소수게 냠는 제데 녀모 pompe pompo 꼭된 딩아 줄에 깨요도 디네 코발에 타와를 껴바래 했어야지 또 겹탄이 들이 이시다 아주 겹수 겹유들라 겹유 숨제 겹수 조다디 이시제다제 이시제다디야 다 소수요 롭장 제 뭐가 저 건조 야기 그래서 메데네 멤버제 산지기 롭장 럽든 제바디 근데 만호와 마투바 직 따다 지그레서 베델 이시다 기된 거 지금 로 지그레서 베 이시제야 소수게디 냠는 제발에 때네 다 타바 톱투 그래서 베 이시제디제 이시제 데네 이시제네 소수게 냠는 제네 아니 냠는 제네 타르바세디 고된의 귤에 끼어도 토병도 되는 가족이 tarpaase kowaale gyobaare se. Ta nangbi sanyi bigi kowe gyabki, gyab chetang, gyabla gyab su chotang, dine gyab tang surde, ondu sine chegore. Parsha.
Let's just recap a little bit, looking at the three jewels of refuge. So the three jewels, as we looked at last week, are the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. And these are to whom we turn for refuge. So what is the meaning of going for refuge? Well, a clearer translation of the word refuge is protection. So one turns to the three jewels of refuge, one turns to them for protection. So what does this mean? Well, to understand that, it's important to understand what is meant by each of the three jewels. So the Buddha jewel is the founder teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. He's the teacher of the Buddha Dharma in this world. The Sangha jewel are those who have given rise to great qualities within their continuum. They are Arya beings, practitioners who have come to realize emptiness directly, and they serve the role as being our companions in our spiritual development. Then the Dharma jewel is the qualities of the Dharma that have been developed in the continuum of both the Buddha as well as the Sangha jewel. And in particular, amongst the many qualities of the Dharma jewel specifically refers to the true cessations and true paths that have arisen in the continuum of the Sangha jewel and the Buddha jewel. And those true paths and the true cessations come about through the cultivation of definite emergence, bodhicitta, and in particular the wisdom realizing emptiness. So those are the three jewels. And they serve the role of the Buddha jewel as the founder teacher, the Sangha as our companion, and the Dharma jewel is what we strive to cultivate within our own continuum. And therefore, the Dharma jewel is our actual refuge. Of the three, our actual refuge, or to use the synonym, our actual protection is the Dharma jewel. In other words, when we turn for protection, what we are turning for protection from is the suffering experiences of samsara, our afflicted minds. And the protection from the suffering experiences of samsara is the quality, the development of the Dharma within our own mind. So therefore, we strive through following the teachings of the Buddha jewel, accompanied by the companions, our spiritual teachers, the Sangha jewel, to cultivate the Dharma jewel within ourselves. And it's through cultivating the Dharma jewel in our own continuum, these true paths and true cessations, that we come to gain protection from suffering. And that is the actual refuge. So for us to go for refuge or go to protection and cultivate the Dharma jewel within ourselves, we need to have a trust or a conviction in the qualities of the three jewels. And that trust or conviction, that faith, that comes about independent on a number of causes. In particular, as we gain more knowledge and experience of the Dharma based on that knowledge, our faith or our trust and conviction in the three jewels grows. And as our trust and conviction grows in dependence on our own experience, we'll strive ever more to give rise to the actual Dharma jewel within our own continuum. So this is the meaning of going for refuge or going for protection in the Buddha Dharma or in Buddhism. Because it can all too easily sound like when one goes for protection to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, that one is turning to something outside of us, something or someone outside of us to reach down and pick us up and take us to a place freed of suffering. When in actuality, what one is when one turns to those outside of us, the Buddha and the Sangha, one is turning to them for guidance and inspiration to develop the Dharma within ourselves. So the Buddha, through having taught the Buddha Dharma, and the Sangha as acting as our teachers and companions, they can serve to aid us in the development of the realizations of the Dharma within ourselves. But it's up to us, in dependence on their guidance, to strive to make great effort in cultivating definite emergence, bodhicitta, and the wisdom realizing emptiness within ourselves. And it's through doing that we gain protection from suffering, the mind of refuge.
angzi chaya nangbo angzi ma zhuatangji pa xuekan chu gugore da dine xuesha yue ne ya da nga zu jiangdu gabla ane jiangdu nga zu la labkan ji me na ane nga zu xin ma ro jesa nga zu le labkan chu gugore labkan ji yen ji ro da jesa dine ji ne nyema kheba ji angzi zhuatang xue cha xie zui xia xia ba ji 나디 코로나 저기 되냐 냠nyol lobjong je 냠nyong yue ji ge lobjong ji lobjong ji sargan ji ge da gi gen je nga su lab na lab yo de nga su ge nyama khon zo an ji di laba na xin ko sue ba na xin je nga su ge pa jiang do ji de de ga zam ji liang zo an ji zhuo tang cha sa de ya gu bei ya gu xin so bei na de nga zo an ji ge gang a di ji da de ne ma xin bei gang a de gang a se ge ro a ji sa di se wa la gar gu gu sin dang bo an ji zhuo tang labkan ji gu sue kan ji gu du wa sue kan ji ma ding kan ji gu da di sang ji da ji ba de nga zo ko yu du nga le tar ya ge tablam ding hen de sang ji da ji ba sha gang ro da nga zo lia ang ji labkan yin ji lab de gen chu ro wa yin ya bo ko rong nyam nyo da ko rong jang che nyam nyo sa me na nga zo lab xing ma ro ko rong da bo jang nyam nyo sa gen lab thang jen sen de nga zo lab yo du ko di labkan yin de da nga zo ge pa pe ge nu na cha de ge nu kon cho na cha de 세상당 아주도 장제다 ang지디파 장제 타마라야 아주 차상 장찬 아주 신송도 되네 신바디 아주 차상 연대는 아주 길레사로와 딜레어도 최권조 곡된서 녀모보 반배 방보 곡되는 아주 레바 길레게바다 지바차 되네자 강한세야도 강지 강한세다데 되네 세기도와 제자 되네기 아주 ang지 소소라 ang지 마신비 강아디 세야이 세발라 신바디 신고도 이 신발라 랍칸지 대라 되고도마 남된 지겐지라 되 대려야 하는 거 랍칸지라 되 아니 소소라 훌베저제 장 지숨 초바이나 당아 저기 안지기 강아디 세장 안지디 대신 두고로 디나지 찍어로 와다 야가 가래이네 근데 제모이네 아저 제모 푸티세다 락베세는 뭔가제도 디당버 제모 소현지로 와다 제가 당보 수요일마 미지기 되네 제고스면 체시직 된 수요사로 와다 수요사는 당양 미지기 되는 마 장제 호로도 장도제 된제네 냠뇨 현지 당아도 제가 저도 제가 랍도 그 랍고로 와디 예린 거 저를 랍칸디 진짜 되네게 전에 당아주도 장도 장데 대제당 개발 약고 차선은 딩안주 연된 차서로 봐. 진짜 대야 셰발라 연된 차발라 당보 제만 수행지 고도 제만 수행지 연에 수 차외제라 안주를 납칸지 고도 딜랍칸지다 여번 나가주 배준제 마장반의 신마로와 진짜 나가주 배제 장고도 진짜 뒤숨 초바 있나 나가주 제모대야신 롭종 가리나 되네제도와 니나신다 상지 나가주 코여 동을 줘야 될래 상지기 탑럼데 때 탑럼데 때 냠뇨 유현지 나가주야 기 로제 아니 나가주야 디 로제바 되나지 배주상의 장바 있나 탈배공을 토부를 세대 안주기다 산 남바 상지비기 코유 동을 타야디 규다 예 샹라 되네 아니 배주 제발에 되네 아니 안주기 탈바도 토부를 마도 배주 맞아봐 너 소수의 배주 맞아봐지 건조기 고발에 겹그레세디 겹투말 껴요 말했어야지 당아주 남바 상지비기 조다로시다 코유 동을 겹타디 디순거로 봐
The approach of the Buddha Dharma is very similar to what we engage in our everyday life. For example, when we entered the world as infants, we knew nothing about mathematics. We didn't even know the concept of 1 + 1 makes 2. But someone who long before us had come up with the understanding of mathematics, and we've come to varying understandings of mathematics. And how did we do so? Well, there was someone in the world, or some groups of people, who developed their understanding of how mathematics works. Then, having developed the various mathematical formulas, other people studied and trained in that. And when we came about in this life, we went to school and we had skilled teachers who taught us in a progressive sequence how to understand mathematics, starting with some simple principles, eventually developing our knowledge into really skilled equations. And eventually we came to perhaps a deep understanding of mathematics, came to understand how mathematics rules the material world, and in that way could have an impact on our lives. We can see this in mathematics as one illustration. Whatever your individual areas of expertise, the process would have been the same. And this is the case not just in academic fields, but in all fields. For example, the team that won the grand final this past weekend, they only became so good that they could become the best team in the nation in independence on a wide number of causes. Eventually, way back, there was someone who came up with the sport, and then there were those who made the rules, so they would be likened to the Buddha jewel. Then there were the particular team that won. They had their skilled coach and coaching staff, and they would be likened to the Sangha jewel. But those two causes are insufficient for the individual players to become extremely skilled, nor to work together well as a team. Every individual had to train well over many years, in dependence on the guidance, the skill guidance of others. They developed their individual skills and their team skills. And in that way, they could get to the heights of winning the grand final. So this is how it works in our world in terms of physical endeavor, as well as intellectual endeavors. And so too with our mental transformation. In dependence on causes, in particular the founder Buddha and our skilled teachers, can we attain the knowledge and the guidance required so that we can develop our own skills, our own inner transformation, and in this way transform our mind from a mind that is currently pounded by suffering and misery to a mind that is freed, completely protected from suffering by having attained freedom from the possibility of any suffering being experienced at all.
당한 저기 냠는 지도 갑라다 Lama Chöpa 냠는 지도 당보 내 군로 다리 아주 그 시바 나신다 저기 지게 수수 야보 쇼제 된가라 되는 군로 자주 심심자 탐지기 된도 안에 산요고 보토바 지기 인세비 군로 자주 심게 니 제도다 아니야 안 산요고 보토비 제도다 야 점로제 알에 접유사 답 안델야 안지 점로제다 점로스 지금 사야 있나라 도스치노 komya 나라 도스치노 제 니네 도스치에 다 되는 마는 점로제 세베체라 안 가르서야 장슈 심게 거래 한 장슈 심게 심 공고를 지나당 아주 다 되는 마 냠는 지도가라 장슈 심 kom야다 돈이 공서 공나도 직직기디나다 돈이 야세 공고야 차고 장슈 심네 야세 공고야 차고래 지나 냠는 지도 갑라 장슈 심 공고래 돈이 공고래 세 디송마도 장슈 심기 오다 기위 규다디 로자디 요마다 가시네 니엘레네 고 장도로 제 니엘레네 가서 장도로 제고로 된자 디네자다 한데 데라 장슈 심기에도 고미야 차고 된마 다 점로 제사베죠 디네 다 된마 장슈 심 고미야 데라 심전 군기 된기처 다니엘 라마 할규네 심전 남제 라마레 고wanchola 거 버자 하세지 다 식팅 아주 장슈 심 계획이 식티래
With a motivation of bodhicitta, we sit on our cushion and we embark on this practice of Lama Chöpa, going for refuge. With the motivation of bodhicitta means we have the determination to strive to become a Buddha for the sake of others. And with that intention, we turn then to the three jewels, knowing that it's through turning to the Buddha jewel, being guided by the Sangha jewel, and striving to develop the Dharma jewel within us, that we will be able to become a Buddha for the sake of others, and thereby fulfill our bodhicitta motivation. So here in our text, there's very brief reference made to refuge and bodhicitta, because by the point that one comes to train in or engage in a practice such as the Lama Chöpa, one will already be learned and experienced in meditation in terms of generating mind such as bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness, having received already extensive teachings and meditated on these topics repeatedly over a sustained period. So with that extensive background, one is ready to engage in a practice such as Lama Chöpa, in that the text is very brief and the topics are covered just with a few words, but behind the topic is extensive meaning that one would already have trained well in. So last week we looked at the verses numbered 2 and 3. Now this week we're going to start with the fourth verse, the first with reference to the generation of bodhicitta. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I shall become my Guru Deity and place all sentient beings in the supreme state of a Guru Deity.
심전 탐제 랑기 말 제뇽와 샤다 랑이래 진제이 진제 샤다레스 제가 데니게 심전 되게야 소수기 다데 바동이 심젤이야 안지게 펜파주 투면 제가 데네자 심전 랑기 진제 뭐 깨진치부 세대 마 심제 군지스 랑기 마제뇽와 랑을 진제 뭐 샤다레 심전데 디시 동안 콘족이 된다래 콘족레 디기 주비야다 콘족이 동안 세네 탈바다 탐제 캠비 고발을 꼬에게 된다래야 다 심제 탐지기 산조고 마토네 탑민우 심비기 산조고 토바 지긴스 심제 탐지 마심제 공유 된기 콘주기 칠도 안에 가르스네 마심제 탐지기 된디 가르스는 된기 칠스도 콘주 심제 탐지랑을 진천보 끄진천보 라나진 대화도바 딩오미도바 지바 제가 심제 탐지 동안 자야는 디기 주비기 칠도 안에 이 가르쳐 버렸으는 다들 알아야 누가 민도 세상에 되는 상이 산지고 토고서 다니엘 라마 할규네서 다니스 소소라서 와 라마 하세디 다들 가지고 되도 소르듯이 라마 하세디 시고 라마 하세디 라마 헤규 뭐 규르그레세도 Lama Sidi Chodu Yuba said, Tobja Nana Tarbada Tamjiki Moko, Chodu Yuba, Lama Sidi that, Lama Sina Sanji, Dimo, Guru said, Sosura, Sanjugo, Tobachi, Sanjugo, Tobna, Sanjugo, Sanju Chodu Yuba, Lama di Yuarua. Lama said, Lana Meba, Guana Meba, Tobja, Guana Meba, Sanji, Lama said, that's a Sanji Horno Gogore, Sanji. Lama Hargunes, Lama Sanji Yukoban, Toba Jigi in Siu, that do not do it. Didn't you just get Lama Hargunes, Lama said the Sanji, Lama has and the Sanji Koranche, Digoban Toba Jigi in Siu. Lama the Sanji, Lama Sanji. That then around to get Lama didn't around to Lama the Chayamarwa. 아주 겨울음지 자유를 자유 말봐. 지난 나디디 제라마 살균에서 라마 세디 고나메 봐서 지난 고나메 봐 상기지 당아도 톱지않는 고나메 봐 초도 규바 고나메 봐 니기 라마 초도 규바 라마 하디기 뭐 아니 마한티 고 토바 지기 세대다 규르 세대 디 톱나 랑이 라마 규르소와 상유 규르와 지난 토바 지기 세대
So in the text, we've generated refuge, and now we're going for bodhicitta. But these two practices, these two minds, refuge and bodhicitta, aren't completely separate, as in they have no relationship. It is because we are determined to become a Buddha for the sake of suffering mother sentient beings that we have gone for refuge. Our sole motivation is to become a Buddha so that we can finally repay the immense kindness of mother sentient beings. We've recognized that with countless lifetimes already lived, we haven't been able to repay in a meaningful way, in the most meaningful of ways, the kindness that others have shown us. With this recognition, we determine to become a skilled being who can repay that kindness, become a Buddha. This is the motivation of bodhicitta, and with that motivation we have already gone for refuge. So therefore, the mind of refuge and the mind of bodhicitta, these are entwined. So now looking at the verse, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, so in the very first line here, it lays out why we are engaging in this practice. In the second line, I shall become my Guru Deity. So this is the expression of the determination of a bodhisattva. Every activity I engage in, every thought I engage in, is directed towards accumulating the causes that lead to enlightenment. So here what we have translated as Guru Deity is literally the words that there are in the Tibetan, Lama La Gyur. So it's a literal translation. The meaning, though, is not Guru Deity, it is that of Buddha. We have visualized before us our Lama. We're not in this practice striving to become our Lama. We are striving to become a Buddha. So why then is it expressed as Guru Deity? Because the word for Guru or for Lama means none higher. And what is the highest deity? That is the Buddha. So whilst the translation is fine in that this is what it says, the meaning is the Buddha. We are, or a Buddha rather. So here, the way then to understand the meaning of the first two lines is, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I shall become a Buddha. So that then sits very clearly with the motivation of a bodhisattva. So again, just in case I didn't say it clearly, the meaning of Guru Deity. So Guru means none higher. And so deity literally here is God. That's the same word in Tibetan, God or deity. So the God, the supreme of gods would be the Buddha. So here, that's how we can understand Guru Deity as meaning Buddha. And we relate this also to the initial visualization where we're seeing the Lama, the Yidam, and the Buddha as indivisible in essence.
Daniel Lama 당이 라마 하르균에스 라마 하세데 이거 상여고 봐 상기시와 디 토바지 인세지 삼다나 직되네 삼다나 주고 다 삼다나 니바들라 야게 삼다 주고 데네 라마 하세데 주기 듄리아 사답시비기 개뷰 세테비게 베네 라마 인제 라마로 산다바티 듄리아 덤바 상예 좀네디 디니갈이야 아니 개와도에 창 사답시 라마 쳐르바 디 라마 하세데 데라고 줘래 데라고네 다니 라마 하세네 라마 결혼주기 녀몽보고 귀엔 탐제방 연된 탐제 톱네 상계바 고방 토바 나신 라마 결혼주 토바 라마하 결혼주기 토바 나신직 메야 디나신 토바 지기인세 월다가제 제도다 토바 지기서 상계고바 토바 지기서 결혼주기 결혼주 나신디 메야 토바 지기인세지 나신세지 자나 라마하세 듄지 세다비기 개뷰 라마하들 뭐 숨바이나 라마하 결혼주 나신이자 토바지기 세직제 다 라마하세디야 듄지 맞아 지나 상일 잡은 미 상계고바 토바지기 세직제 어디 도시네 가르 삼다나 된다라 상계고바 토바지기 시고르.
A second way to relate to the expression Guru Deity is we visualize the Lama before us in the aspect of Geshe Rinpoche, with Buddha Shakyamuni visualized at his heart, and at the heart of Buddha Shakyamuni Vajradhara. And these are representing the Lama, the Buddha, and Vajradhara representing one's Yidam. So the second way then to understand the term Guru Deity is one is expressing to one's Lama visualized before oneself as a determination to strive to become a Buddha just like you. So one is obviously not saying one will arise as one's Lama, but in sense of the same way as our Lama is perceived as enlightened, I will strive to become an enlightened being just like you. So that is the second way that one can understand this expression in Guru Deity.
And 상계네 가르치기를 하려면 저는 다 상계네 가르치기를 상 하루 귤네 하는 게 가르치긴 랍나 셈젠 탐제 라마리 고방초라 거버자 지사 셈젠 탐징이 상계 고방 톱산에 되는 게 셈젠들이야 다 셈젠의 야 안지게 셈젠 되게 차상하네 라마리 고방초라 거것이 라마리시도 안서 대신하지 라마하세데 라마하세데 상계 고방 디 라마레도 고방 초도 주바레스 베네가서 개와치마 하다미 고방 토야 안타르바 토비아 세지요르 타르바 탐지김베 고방 토야라는 산지 고방 디다 디나는 톱자는 초도 주바레스 지자 초바 초도 주바 라마리 지데 라마하 산지 고방 초도 주바 될래야 미 꾸기인 심지데 꾸기인서 라마리 고방 초라 거버자 심젠디게 차사 코비 동안에 되게 and the
purpose of the Bodhisattva is expressed then in the next two lines, and place all sentient beings in the supreme state of a Guru Deity. Here the Bodhisattva has as their determination to strive in their spiritual development so that they can become a Buddha for the sake of others. And why do they want to become a Buddha for the sake of others? And that's what is expressed in the third and fourth line. To lead all sentient beings to achieve their own supreme state of enlightenment. So here we can understand Guru Deity as this supreme state of a Guru Deity as the supreme state of enlightenment, or the supreme state of a Buddha. So we can understand the term Guru Deity here in that way. And that is the objective of a Buddha. Of a Bodhisattva. Because for the Bodhisattva, striving to become enlightened isn't just to benefit beings in a mundane way. It's to benefit beings in the most important of ways. To lead them to achieve their own enlightenment.
And there are Tibet Lama Hasia, the Rangu Dunye, Satabji, gave you Lama de Samtavena, Lama La Choronzuki, Kopan Sanjo Kopan Toba Nashin, Semjan Tamje, the Niki Sanjo Kopan Yakugi Saji.
And here too, the expression Guru Deity can be understood in the two ways. The first, as I've just said, as meaning, in this case, Buddhahood, to lead all sentient beings to achieve a supreme state of Buddhahood, or a Buddha. The second way it can be understood is to achieve a supreme state just like you, my Lama. So our Lama who's visualized before us as the combination of Geshe Rinpoche, Buddha Shakyamuni and Vajradhara. Here, the second way we can understand the expression is, I will lead all sentient beings to achieve a state of realization just like the state of realization you have achieved.
나 저기 심전 탐조 코위 동안에 상기 드레제 상기 살이야 기긴라로와 다 계당 가는스 기기래 람나 나 저기 대시 지바래 계당 가는 기기를 생각해서 람림나라 누용고 보시 냠내 제세 송로와 제자 된죄바 된튠바 안에 세대 된죄바도 된튠바 시로와 제자 년바마와 된죄바 된튠바세 년바마와 세디 마취시제 당한 저기 심지에 뒤에 코비 동안에 자해대 간스러서 심젤이야 동안에 저에게 탑람되게 마시 그것도 마시 다 소소게 냠는 제 산조고 버터서 소소게 냠녀로 소소게 냠녀 돈에 안마 심진되기야 동안에 저에 탑람되게 마띠 안델이야 냠실 렌주 안 냠실 렌발에 때네 안고 타바 탈 산조고 버터도 그래서 대시 집어로 와서 겜러스데 Captain Baba Sayi Ganzulia, Tablam de Tingorwa, Tablan Tinge, that Delia Kitin Gonjogi, the Robache, and the Ganzuki, Yamlan Chebalatine, Sayuba Togura, Dinashi, Garanzuki, Sayi, didn't know Anashi, Garanzu in the Maupana, Shangi, Simji Dunga Seala, Koyu Dunga, Tabatamji Gobala, Sosugi, Yamyon Tone, Consular Tablam de Pashi. And Della and Sosugi Robache, and Sosu Roba, Sosomena, Sosugi Tinsha, the Maubana, Tinyam chicken, Sosugi Romata, the Newman, this will Robache, Roje, and got tap Yamlen Jeju, Ya Sanji Salakoyadi, Donachi Vachagurua.
How is it that the Bodhisattva sets out to lead all sentient beings to achieve a state of enlightenment? Well, we covered this when we were looking at the Lamrim recently, in the section after the 6 perfections on the 4 ways to positively influence others. The Bodhisattva, these are the activities a Bodhisattva engages in order to lead others to enlightenment. A different part of the explanation of the 4 ways to positively influence others are the practices the Bodhisattva engages in for the benefit of the continuum of others. There are practices such as the 6 perfections, which ripen the Bodhisattva's continuum, and the 4 ways to positively influence others are 4 ways the Bodhisattva influences others or ripens their continuum. The first is to fulfill the material needs of sentient beings so that they have their material needs met and therefore can engage in Dharma practice. The second is to teach the Dharma in accordance with their own karmic backgrounds and individual spiritual disposition. The third is to guide them in their Dharma practice, in particular the accumulation of merit and the purification of non-virtue. That's the third. And the fourth is for the Bodhisattva to live in accordance with their teachings. So this is the way a Bodhisattva guides others to achieve their own enlightenment. And for them to be able to do it well, they also need to continue to spiritually develop themselves until they also become Buddhas. Because to be able to skillfully guide others, mere intellectual knowledge is insufficient. No matter how great one's intellectual knowledge is, that alone is insufficient. Spiritual transformation, inner transformation, based on that spiritual knowledge is essential, because then one can guide sentient beings perfectly in accordance with their own individual karmic predispositions.
나가서 렘림 쳔만알 망아서 셈게 고래서 셈게 다다 지바래다 ditchede 다데는 마 쳬버징이 셈게 봐서 다양 쳬버징이 셈게 봐야 디안 장유 셈게 봐래네 셈дө스 제그 베노로로 마선에 베 쳬로 지 냠네 지다 셈게 하신 것이 그래 the old Mashi, the same year was Shigore, the Jing of Shade, that Jida Lamrim, the share, same Ketashi, that in my same Kabarching, same Ketasi, and same Church, and the Chike, same Ketashungore.
We'll come to the next verse now. The one we've just covered is the presentation that we'll be very used to from the Lamrim teachings. The next verse then is, in addition to that, to strengthen the resolve of the Bodhisattva.
And that's it. Masimje Tamji, don't do Tsetinila, and Nuwa, Dume Sangia Lama Lekubang de Chess. Masimje Tamje Dunga Letel, Disha Sangi Salakobracha, the Churdu, Lamsama Lamale, Naljunium Solama, Giwo Sashi.
The 5th and 6th verse, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I shall quickly in this very life attain the state of a primordial Guru Yidam Buddha. I shall free all mother sentient beings from suffering and place them in the great bliss of Buddhahood. Therefore, I shall now practice the profound part of Guru Yidam Yoga.
Adelia Disungore, that Jidangan Jugi, Simja Tamisan Yokoba Toba Chigins and the Toba Show, Chanju Semkene. Tadu Chenanga Yamlenchine, and Chiki Tebene, Lomangbu Ringlia, and Dushine, Nangazuki, Due Kapsu Shepike, Chanju Sem Yamle, Sanjoko Tobalia, and Lomambush, Unibushu Kogorva. Sasan Unibushu Kogenza, the Nigg Unibu Kova in it, the Nigg Semjen de Jikanga, the Dunga, Shu, Unibushu, Yonga Pesa, the Nigg, Tixer Unimindos and Benin Japan, Haward the Kitchen, Carson, Semjan Tamjegu Dundu. Semjan Tamji Dunu Sachiba, Semjan Tamjo Kuru Dunga, Sanya Sala Kubi, Chirdu, and Ni Dagis, Sedinilas, New as that Lomangbu Rilia, Yamlenji, Sanjokoba, Tobale, Setagarangi, Set Delia, and Sanjokoba Toba Chigins. Dimas set Dela Yanayang, and the Lomangbu Nishu Sumjus, Denegi, Sanjotova, Gorguina. Yanchik Semjendige, Lonishu Sumju Dunga Yongura, they can't pass Asha Diniza, me, Sedila, Sedinala, Losum Chesum Nalia, Sanjoko Toba Chickens. New Adambo said him, Sedilia, and Sanjoko Tobachi. The new Niba digin, Sedilia, and Chig Lomangbush Dina Gorvaneta, Semja Kanga Mambutan, Lomangu Kanga, Tenza, make your wood your Lamsan, Semjen de Jakanga, the Unibo Yomo Lamsaya. Sanjisala Go, Dinza, Marangi Setila, Losum Chusum Naliang, Sanjiko Toba, Chin, Sebege, Semki or Daje, Setinilla, Nuas. Said Chesa Nua said, Tangbo digas and other Done, she will Lomang, like our Mangu, Rasang gave Sanji, Chanju Sem Yamle, Sanjo Gopala, Dino Govaina, Semjen Tamjelia, Dunga Chu, Yongu Dus. Tienza Nua said in Dele Joa, said Delia, Sanjoba Tovachi, Nua Tambodi. Then said Delayang, that do some yes, sometimes said Delayana, Lomangbo, Lo Chujo, and Nishu Sumju Ship Juice, Denegi, Sanjotobalo Kovaina, Semjelia, Dungalia, Noa, Deneco, Tienza, Lo Dinalo, said Dinalo Yangi, Lomangbo Magoja, Losum Chosum Nalia, Sanjoba Tovachi, and Sebege, Denegi, Semkigore.
The first line in the 5th verse is the same meaning as we see our translation is the same as the first line in the 4th verse. So the Tibetan slightly different, but the translation's identical. So here again, our motivation is re-established in the first line. Then the second line, I shall quickly in this very life. So here, one has come to recognize through one's extensive study and reflection that one has to become a Buddha for the sake of others. And that this path to become a Buddha, especially the sutra path, takes an inestimable length of time. And in this period, one has to strive continuously accumulating the causes that are required to bring about the exalted state of Buddhahood. But this takes lifetimes and lifetimes. Here, because of the strength of compassion we have generated, we are determined to not take lifetime after lifetime, but to do it as quickly as is possible. In fact, we will do so in this very lifetime. So here, I shall quickly, in this very lifetime. So the Tibetan is not quite in the same order. The Tibetan would literally be, in this very lifetime, I shall quickly. So in this very lifetime, and one quickly goes together. In that, one is determined by the first expression of the term quickly to become a Buddha in this life, not to wait for this full expanse of lifetime after lifetime after lifetime and eventually attain Buddhahood for the sake of others. I will do so in this lifetime. So that is the meaning of the first quickly, and the first quickly will be conjoined with in this very lifetime. It is then immediately followed by the second quickly. That has the meaning that actually one lifetime is too long. Kind Mother, sentient beings need a skilled guide right now. Beings are depending on my spiritual development. I cannot take a moment longer. The perhaps 20 or 30 or 40 years that may remain of this life is too long to become a Buddha. I need to do so right now. Within the expanse of 1 3-year retreat, I need to become a Buddha for the sake of others. And that is the meaning then of the second quickly, which is that even one lifetime, which is the meaning of the first quickly, is too long. Within the expanse of 1 3-year retreat, I need to become a Buddha for the sake of others.
Döme sangye lama le ko bong de ches. Da döme sangye se de döme se de 제가 쳇델에 지금 로섬 최선 나라상 요거 뭐 토바 지기 가르스네 나랑기 규기 샘디 되만에 곧네 다샘디 나랑기 샘디 마세야다 나랑기 샘세디 되만에 ene ka rangshin ma zhu ba res ko zawa gine rangshin yong ne ju ma nya wa rangshin zhu ba na ko gyuwa gine zhe me ge che ko ji san ko rangshin ni dang de zawa gine rangshin yong zhu ma nya wa res ma zhu ba re ma se ma zu ge sem di rangshin ji nyomo yo ma re ni rangshin ji nyomo na zha wa res jang a zu jian ge du bi nyomo mong bu ji de drip de wa ma do sem ko rangshin di gyun gyu dan gyun tam je dan zha wa 상기기 셈다 집바로 차리고 그랬어. 괜찮다. 제가 되네게 셈디 될야 가르여서네 다데 마주기 셈šan다 라고 녀모바 망보지 디기 녀모바게 대수 바샤샤 되네스도 되네산 대수 차상파 세바이나 나랑게 되미게 셈기 라신기 아니 괜탐시다 자와디 상기고 뭐 뒤수도 제가 되네사 되미 상기에서 나랑 자와네 녀만 규주 마녀 라신다 녀모베 뭐 주마녀 라신기 셈디 아니 장마레데 야 라마레시데 산요고방리아 산요고방 규어지 모두 지긴스데 산요고방 규어지 토바지 인서데 산요고바 규바이나 소소 산요고바 도고르바 모두 제세다 돈달라 가르소르스네 니셈제 탐제게 돈달야 직 체델야 산요고바 체델야 마세 로마보 먹어 체숨 로숨 최숨 나데 디나를 양의 곰접체 산요고바 토바지 제산 데네기 톱소나 산요고바 톱소나 데네기 요바심제 탐제 마틴 제 타발람 산예살고바 또 고투도 제자가 제디 고베 셈리아 하 그시 닝두블 마소나 시오지 하 셈제를 미비기 닝지바 시오지 게야다 안 하바도 되니게 산지고바 토블라 닝도블 마서 쇼 하바도 계속 알아봐다 제제 되네자 셈기 개발 와서야지 내가기 저기 타바침비기 나게 냠는다 제위 돈에 셈기 다듯이 송거다디
The final line in this verse, attain the state of a primordial Guru Yidam Buddha. So here, one has, the first line of this verse, re-established the motivation of the Bodhisattva. In the second line of the verse, one has added strength of mind. I'm not going to take the length of time that the sutra path requires, countless lifetimes. Rather, this will be the final lifetime that I'm not a Buddha. In this very lifetime, I will become a Buddha. In fact, I'm not even going to rely on the expanse of years of this lifetime within the boundaries of a single 3-year retreat. I will become a Buddha. Then in the third line, and I can do that because my mind has been primordially pure, meaning that our mind has always, only, ever been empty of inherent existence. Our mind is the nature of our mind is completely free from the afflictions and their stains. And because the nature of our mind has primordially or always, has from the very beginning, always been empty of inherent existence, by removing the coarse minds, the afflictions, completely eradicating them, this primordially pure mind, this empty nature of the mind, will become or transform into the enlightened state of a Buddha. And that then is the meaning of the third line. And this is the motivation that is required in order to engage in the Mahayana tantric practices. One requires the motivation of bodhicitta, but not mere bodhicitta, but a bodhicitta of incredible strength and courage, that one will encounter any hardship with joy and resolve because of the strength of one's determination to become a Buddha for the sake of others.
Sanjay Kubang Tobar Tom Nana Karchigiri is in this word that you the Jinima Shavane, Masim Gentamju Dunga letter, Disha Sanjay Salako Parcha, so the Sim Gentamju Kuyu Dunga letter pie church, Ya and Disha Sanjay Salako Parcha, Dingy Dewa, and the Sanjay Kumalia Kugi in Sorda. Niga, Masimja Tamju Dunga letter, said Simjang Rangi Sanjo Koba Top Neda, Dine Simja Tamju Kuru Dunga letter, and Yadisha Sanji Salia Kugis.
The first two lines of the sixth verse again restates what has already been established in the mind. I shall free all mother sentient beings from suffering and place them in the great bliss of Buddhahood. See, here again is the motivation and the goal of a Bodhisattva established.
Dine Zadang Jugi Kissing Lemrum Nala Shidu, Simjet Hamji Sanjo Koban to Show, Sibi Sanjo Koban to Chanju Sem Gomne, Da Sanjo Koban to be to the Karanyam Orson, Passion Juginam Dias, Sonwa, and that during Denmark, and Tang is Simjet Hamji Dunda, Losum Chosum Nana, Cedelia Sanjo Koban to Pachi, Stain Zada, that D Dundala, Karanyam Orson, D Chirdu. Cedelia and Sanjo Koban to be Losum Chosumda, Cedina, Sanjo Koban to be children, Yamlin Garchigres, Lamsamo, Lamali, Naljuniam Solan, you watch. Samo, Lamsamo, and Laminajo, Lama, Najo, more Jitu Dane, and the Yamnaja that answer the Lama Chöpa Yamnajas. Lamada, ha. Lamada, Idam Sanjay, more Yemedo Dane, Yamnichi, so more Lamali, Najo, Yamsona was Lamin Najo, Yamnichi, so just a Lamin Najo, Yamlin Cheba, Latine, and Cedelia, and Gasor Sanjuko, Totubachi, Chesadang to Lamin Najo, saying, Lamigi, Yamlin, Najo, Yamlin Chitasikore. Chesadang to say, Nagin, Yamlin Cedelia, and then Sanjuko to be Nuba Yoba in such as Yoko Cedelia, Cedelia, Losum Chusumana, Sanjiko, what to be cheese. And Ditobia Tobla, Tabla, and Karalam Yamnichi or Lamna, Lamin Najo Yamnichi in Sorda. Lama Idam Sanjay, Lama da Idam Sanjay, or Yemen to tell you when Yamnichetan Sungore.
Then in the final lines of this verse, therefore I shall now practice the profound path of Guru Yidam Yoga. So you'll recall from our classes on the Lamrim that when one generates bodhicitta, the determination to become a Buddha for the sake of others, one then engages in the practices of a bodhisattva, and those are the 6 perfections. But now we're not in the sutra presentation, the tantric presentation. Now the bodhisattva is going to engage in the practices of a bodhisattva so that they can become a Buddha for the sake of others. and the practices are that of Guru Yidam Yoga. So here with the determination to, in this very retreat, so as to achieve the objective of enlightenment in this very retreat, the practitioner is determined to engage in Guru Yidam Yoga, meaning through reflecting on the Lama, Yidam, and Buddha as being indistinguishable in essence. They will engage now in the varying practices so as to achieve enlightenment in this one retreat.
Lam sammo la gido dini nyamlin jege lam di nga zu de kam de shi be lam nyamlin che tha le lam de sa ba re so la min na ju nga ge nyamlin che la be na ju nyamlin che de lam de sa ba re nu ba che ba re si ko ra nu ba che ba re si ko wa je na da dini ge la min na ju nyamlin che du chimbo su ru zo ba zun de sam de nyamlin 이 동이 도베 시대 파진도 냠레도 여바 제 디된도 당 냠레 제도 갑라 아저 라마 다 이담 상제 숨모 예메도 지도 다제나 냠레 제다 숨고로 와
The profound path is a term we also know from the sutra tradition, but here it's really showing that in relation to the sutra path, this tantric path is more profound. Moreover, whilst there is no reference made to the 6 perfections of generosity, ethical restraint, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration, and wisdom, all 6 are included here, as well as Guru Yidam Yoga.
Da diba doan zu kisin nu jasa rabka kisin shin ma doan diba lerwa. Da dine lene da ma janju sim ke sewe chela da ngan zu ki sashi nu ju jin lab che gore sene. Nu lab du ngan zu ki sashi shin da zishin la zo zambli de dine ke sashi de ki ne de che. Ju lab du dina yu be ki sem jen de ki chasan jin lab che gore se.
Now, having generated the required motivation to engage in tantric practice, one engages in the next part, which is to bless the world and its beings, or the world and its inhabitants, the world and its beings.
Tama bayi nga zuruwa jin nuju jin la chi tuya maro chizan da nuju jin lab chiba la soso rang rang ane idam lai yung ngo kie, lai yung ngo kie tena lai yu gu le ane wese chwe wese digi pa nue dang ju li pa wese digi pa po yadu tena wese digi dup kie ane konso jin lab go re se jin lab che tang du sung go re.
As an ordinary person, we can't bless the world and its beings. However, a deity, a yidam, certainly can. So here, we need to arise as a deity, and then through emanating light rays, we can bless the world and its beings. Now we come to verse number 1. Within great bliss I arise as my Guru Yidam. From my clear body, masses of light rays radiate into the 10 directions, blessing the world and its beings. All become perfectly arrayed with only infinitely pure qualities.
대신 나리에서 대신에서 대화 챔피언 하나 줄이야 배까지 대화 해봐진 게 오래라래 나 당보 나디 제대로 당보 동의 공부 동의 삼당고 그래 다 내가 가는 삼당고에서는 대신 안 저기 자주 셈계로 하다가 점로 유사답 안 될이야 자주 셈계로 또 지는 셈계도 갑이야 되는 아 저기 든지 개뷰되길래 대바제주 대매바제주도 이제 결혼해서 나신 간주니 나이나 셈제 탐지도 유원이 산유고 봐 도바 지긴세베 되는 게 자주 셈기요도 대 든지게 개뷰되게 빼 마상한서 툭시우 녀제네 아니 나두송도 지난 개뷰되게 봐디 이 대라망보지 봐 차상 뒤지네 아니 조 아니 제름실이야 팀고어스 다 제일 미치대 아마 덴바샤게 두바디라 팀송한세베 도시 뭐바체 데네 덴바샤게 두바디야다 di ningar yubiki Yawa Dorje Chala Tim Song Saji, Mabaji that Yawa Dorje Chan Jigma Hayo Chasanda, Dina Chosing La Chasada, Hada, Dinegi, and Shukri down, Medona Chasanda, Yawa Dorje Chala Tim Sare, Chasan Tim Sare, Chasan Yawa Dorje Chala San Yu Gundu Yung, Gabne Gundu Yung, Chasan Duty teacher. Dima Ma Page, Sosugi, the Minsam Delma. 마 쇼송와스 멤버바치 소소레 팀 송와스 멤버바치 고레시 개와도시 소소레 팀 송와스 멤버바치에도 데네 소소의 팀명도 갑려야 소소레 빼 마스 류야 류 대상 마세 가랑시 소소기 류기 균 탐체다 세 균간에나 저다제 소소리아 류야 가랑라 집에 초월 마서 셈나 셈 딩리아 빼 마세 가보러지 계속 셈비기 당한지 데네 멤버바치 고스래 Dorje Chade Ma Yong Social Ma Tim Song Samas. Social Minsam de la Ma Tin Ma Social Tim Song Mebachi Ores. That social Tim Samabachi the Dine Di that Tim ne Jing Lapshadu, Sosogilia, Dewadan Gade, Shuji Cabrajin, Guess of Gade, you sure Gao, Gader, so all the Shuji Guess on some big, those in Mebachi Ores said. Tis a teaching, said the Dewachimbo said, Jilia, so dine Gadi Chimbo Guess on some big. The
first line, within great bliss arises my Guru Yidam. So the first words in the Tibetan are great bliss. To generate great bliss, one meditates on emptiness. So thus far, we first visualized our Lama in the aspect of Geshe Rinpoche, with Buddha Shakyamuni at his heart, and at Buddha Shakyamuni's heart, Vajradhara. So this represented the Lama, the Yidam and Buddha being inseparable in essence. Now, when we come to meditate on emptiness, having generated bodhicitta, having generated a sense of great closeness to our Lama, we dissolve the visualization. So the visualization I presented was very brief. If one has done a more expansive visualization, all that one has visualized around the main deity, one absorbs into Lama Tsongkhapa, then Lama Tsongkhapa dissolves into Buddha Shakyamuni, who dissolves into Vajradhara. So with only Vajradhara remaining before one, Vajradhara then dissolves into oneself. And one does this now. Through doing that then, with Vajradhara dissolving into you, you feel your body transforming, becoming faultless, your mind too becoming faultless and pure. And in this way, great bliss arises.
And the Nigi, those in social Dewachimbo, those in the Devas, Lu, Soama, Yi, Devade, Dewachimbo, Jason, the Devaski. That those in the that the nation Nga said, yeah, Chick, Devat, Devodu, Sibig, sometimes Nga said. Javache Nga said, Sinima Shavana, Nga said, that Gala, Tuba, Rang, when you do but Zawk in the Meba, Tonsa, Chisam Dong, Zawk in the Meba, Tonsa, Samta, Chisan didn't nobody, Deji, Devachimbo Digi, Dongbani, the Torso, Sampe, Tobi, Mebachi, that Dongbani, Devach, Deji, Devashu, Devaki, Devadigi, you Dongbani the door, Tobi Logi, that Devachimbi, the Shinsa did that. The Nigi Dongbani the Dak, Kijilia. Rani Dorje Chichi Gyaltsen Mebachi or said, Desing Ale, Rani Lama Ha, said the Rani Lama, Tanganzu Lama La Dorje Chan, Gasakia, Idam, Dorje Chichi, or Gesson, Sabina Dorje, the Niki, Gesson, and became Mebachi or Regere.
With Vajradhara dissolving into oneself, and one's body and mind feeling faultless and pure, one generates great bliss. And how so? It's actually through, at that point, of Vajradhara dissolving into one, that one then meditates on emptiness in relation to the self. So this is something that one would have trained in well already. Here one comes to realize that the I is empty of true existence. And one realizes emptiness. And it's that consciousness, or that wisdom, that is realizing emptiness, experiences great bliss. Great bliss it's a mental feeling, it's not the physical feeling, and it arises from the wisdom realizing emptiness. And that wisdom realizing emptiness that arises as great bliss arises in the form of the Guru Yidam, which is here is Yamantaka.
Anda Gandhira Savi Kule Vezo So, Sedita Sosona, Deshi, Tombani Topegi, Devachimbi, Tombani Topegi, Lodi, Dorji Ogur. Then the Nigi that Dorji Ogur, the Ni Dorji Gu, the Nigi on Gandhira Savi, said the Nigi Dorji Kusa, Kudi Lasor, Kule Vezo So, the Weather Batu, Meva Church, Weather Trade, the Church Ulpatu, that's Weather So, Church Trebe, the Church Ulpatu. Ji Xia Lo Nup Jiang and Cho Tsam Xi and Dian Wo. Say Chasang the Macho such a merwa, Chasang Wes Cho Trebe, then they turned the Niki knew the Ju Tamje La Poche. We said poor and then we said D Dupye, and then New Tamje, Jingy Lab Ju Tamje, and the Jingy Lab Song Sempigita, Mevache Oreje, Jingy Lab curious.
Rising as Yamantaka. Then from we're continuing with the verse, from my clear body. So my body, this is the body of Yamantaka now that one has arisen as. Masses of light rays radiate into the 10 directions, blessing the world and its beings. So here, having realized emptiness and generated great bliss, one is now in that great bliss, and wisdom realizing emptiness and great bliss has taken the form of the Yidam, Yamantaka. And from this body, light rays radiate in the 10 directions, blessing all beings, blessing the world and its beings.
Da jingi labde daba rabjem bashi yunden ji gwebe kebara phonsum chopa yuro sede daba rabjem sede da gyön tamje dan jawa da ben ju dige sa shi dige sa da zixin la so ga de cha sang da nga ju ge nembi thong na ji ma yin ba gyön tamje dan je bi ge da de ne ge lei da ji ge ji ga de ne ge lei yue je yang yang de ngā zhūgē tētē shīng dā tsī shīng ngā zhūgē rākpa tū mā yīmbā sā dāng, dō dāng, tēnē yīlē kēwā mā yīmbā khor pē chī kēwī kē kēwā bāshī lē kēwā bāshī lē dhūp tū kēng kē tū yuñ tēng kē tēnē kē bā anē chū kāsā nyē tē kē dā lē yā anē nē bā tsam kē tōng wā tsam kē rāk bā tsam kē lū lē yā gā tē tā sēm lē tē kē yuñ mā tō tēnē kē yuñ tē kē nyē tē kē chū tē kē yī nē yā anē pē chī kē sēm bā sāng bō tāng and Jiangxu Sim Nyam le Jie Dugan, then the Shan La Pembe Sim to Yue Dugan, Sim Chen Chaza, Hei Namba Ruja, Hei Muanaji, Lanaji, Duchin, Yue Sambigate, Jursuan Sambigi, Dene, Mevache or Esajum. Dabarajan Bajun Dini, Guibi, Chapel, Punsum Sopar, Guiba Sadi, Ipti, Zero, such a Dene, then Chazan, Punsum Sopar Esaj. That is, Jidin the Yesadan, do the Mayimbache, Monlam Nan, Gao Bashil, Duke Kingi, that the Lei Sanji, Shingamna, Yudu Candida, Ganasuana, Dina Shinchi, Mavache, what I said.
The verse concludes, all become perfectly arrayed with only infinitely pure qualities. So here, the outer world, as well as the beings therein, all transform through these blessings in that it becomes just like a pure land. All these coarse outer phenomena transform and become as if they were in a pure land, arising from pure causes. And all the beings become like deities, with being kind-hearted and bodhicitta arising in their continuum. So in this way, the outer world, as well as the beings within, all transform as if they had become a pure land.
On that day, that Dambo, Rafka Kisinchimani, Lesad, Dustin, Duenchen, some Tantadi, Jotan Dinere, that Dambo Kunwa Chanshu Simju Kunela, then Rafka Kisinchimbo said Kunela, then they gave you sat up. Dene Jabro Jamroche, Dene Jabrojin, Dene Janju said Semke, Dene Janju Semke, and Digi, and 초신기 겸유지 차상 찍찍래 팀제 안 야와도에 차되게 소소라 팀 안 소소리아 가디 캬바진기 안 델야 안 동반유곰 동반이 삼다네 소수기 가디 대화 되게 동반이 오선 또 대니 동요 또 별로디 도지지 용어규 안 도지지 용어규네 도지지 구래 안 외세 빠도메 버tre 아니 뇌지 뇌다 주리아 파 트레제네 포네 대차상 진이 랍송 선배게다 캬바진 뇌 캬바진 유송 선배게 도지네 삼다딩 아주 다딘마 그생각 넘닝 아주 라마 쳬파 된디 소프디 도나 다나지 삼다도 도지네 삼당 고래제래.
So these then are we've now covered the first 6 verses, and we've done it in the sequence that when you do Lama Chöpa Puja, you do it in this sequence. So one starts with first generating a bodhicitta, and thereafter generating refuge, and then re-establishing bodhicitta. Thereafter, one meditates on emptiness, and wisdom that realizes emptiness and generates great bliss arises in the form of Yamanpaka. And now as the deity, light rays radiating out in all directions, transforming the world and its beings into a pure land filled with bodhisattvas. So this then is the order of sequence that one practices. This is one order of sequence, and it is the order that you engage in when you do the Lama Chöpa Puja.
Rabgo Gizen Chimba Modern Bajan, the Dinaji Pejana Yobanashi, Dambo Tishingale, Dima Dusin Bangrish Tumbaina, Dambo Tun, the Tishingala Rangela Mala, said Tumbaina, that Dambo Koron and the Shevana, Dambo Koron, Tomba in some diets, Zugi, Dangi Simjan Tamjigi Tonalia, and the Lama Chöpa Yamnachi, Sibia Dambo to some Dane, Zugi, to Stene, that. 电古松对电站电电话了都设计把的，那要我对现在呢，就是说让个当不东半夜三大，现在东半夜三大，刚呀嘛吧，让我们就把早没什么东半夜三大都成三大的，现在东半夜那俺这个旅里啊，电话钱不，这个一个电话干了这电话是给第个东半夜多不落多双什么个，但东半夜多不落这个没把钱。 Denige tombanyi tobe lodi deji chiba nanda deji na sheba chiba denige tombanyi tobe lodi dorji chi yungo gyurson saben bache dene dorji chi kule ane wesyo che an neju tamji jingi lap dene neju tamji jingi lap tsarwe chela anda rasamja tamji guduna yang chi kun janshu semje rakwa kesen je semje san yoko bang toba jigin sebe janshu semje sejela gyamdro sa tab dene gyamdro che 다 양 점주제 세회절라 양 자주 sem게 아니 자주 sem게 누스네 제디 당아주기 대신하려 당번마다 대신하려 세된바나 도나딘 시번에 지바다 가니 간에스 된바는 냠는 제바네 캬바르기네요 말 이내다 소소기다 로 곰림당 아주기야 도스네 삼당나 토네 아직 내가 뭐서 곰디와 당보 전주 셈 삼다 접로 삼다 도스네 삼다 대에는 데는마 도스야 돼 당보 동번이 삼다 안 데는마 곰나 지셔바네 당번 대신하래 되신 지고 다가든 딩이기 소수게 냠는 제다다 라미기 양아줄이야 가나다 냠는 도스야 소는 아줄이야 냠는 제리가블이야 라미기 랑아줄이야 지 담가지 간스 난구도 데는마 라미기 도수수진의 제거라서데 롭든지야들 다 되네진의 조고라죠. 제사당은 동반이 검제 동반이 제대 동반이 삼다도 되는 거 저기 동반이고 제바치 동반을 하고 이제 내가 가나라 기도 동반이 또 베기지 대화 첨부되게 동반이 대화지 대진되게 동반이 또 삼당 거래 대신 대화 첨부세 예시치 대화 첨부 약 셈ля 일이 앞에 가나라지 가서지요 대가 화지요 갈이 이셰바지요 니게 동반이 또 그래서
The way you usually practice when you do Guru Puja, starting with from verse 2 to 6, and then 1, and then on with 7, This is one of two ways that the practice is done, and both are equally acceptable. Both are widely practiced. The other way is to start with the first verse, within great bliss arise as my Guru Yidam. So the verse we've just looked at now is often is the first verse, and then some will practice starting here with this verse, and then going from 1 to 2 to 3 and so forth. The meditation, when one starts with the first verse, as opposed to the second, is as presented. So one first starts to meditate on emptiness. And one meditates on emptiness, and well, this is not the first time, of course, one's meditating on emptiness. One would have done so repeatedly over a sustained period. And immediately recalling one's realization of emptiness, great bliss arises, and that wisdom of great bliss realizes emptiness. And then one arises as the deity, as Yamantaka. Light rays radiate out, blessing and transforming the world and its beings into a pure land and bodhisattvas. So, and then this is just as has been presented, and thereafter one engages in the other verses, going for generating bodhicitta, going for refuge. Then from verses 4 to 6, re-establishing bodhicitta and one's motivation of bodhicitta. So the mode of, or the form of the meditation, the per verse doesn't vary, just the sequence. Either one starts with bodhicitta and refuge, or once and only later goes and meditates on emptiness. Or if one starts with the first verse, one first meditates on emptiness, thereafter bodhicitta, refuge, and bodhicitta again. And which of the two sequences to engage in? Well, that depends on one's individual spiritual instructions from one's Lama. And so here we practice starting with the second verse, third, fourth, fifth, sixth first. So that's how we do it here. And others would have received different advice from their teachers, and they will start with the first verse first.
Then lesson that is also that then ma dingy tambo can stand by na Refuge Kisachim doing that digore, teaching ala ma doing and tamadilla, the Simjetam Jews on Yokoba. Lemon the juniors on our Jaw was a this house on a then I don't buy some down, don't buy your gum, then Delia and Lama Chöpa and Chökyi Gyaltsen says Ligore.
When engaging in the sequence as you do in Guru Puja, one is ending with a meditation on emptiness and blessing the world and its beings. If one engages in the meditation starting with that meditation, so starting with the first verse and thereafter going to the second and third, after coming to the end of the sixth verse, before going into the seventh, one then will meditate on emptiness again. Because before one starts with the seventh, which is the blessing of the inner offering, one will need to meditate on emptiness.
지금 뭐가 제제 두시는 삼당 고미야 삼당에 들에 당한지 두 식디마 둥이둥이라 된다디게도 진디네 마직 셈 마야와체 당한주게 대신하는 마 둥이나다 랍가게스 주면 강보이나 당보라 대 랍가게스 주면 당한주게 자주 셈지 삼다 되네야 안지 삼다 제외야 소수윤리야 개비디게 요래 셈비게 된데도 요아 셈 뭐바체 삼다 뭐바체 안델야 안에 자주 셈게 아니야 개발도 셈제담지 체텔이야 산조고 토바지 세베 자주 셈게도 신의 셈게 되네야 동반이요금 되네 동료도 별로디랑 드레지지고 공을 규성 세베 매바체 안되네 꿀레베서 트여제 안네 뇌주에 탐지 진이 랍제 안네 진이 랍 개발전 규성 셈베게 다바랍전 바시 규성 셈베게 도시네 안도시 매바체 도시 삼다데 다당하는 지금 매바체네 마도 마음 중 오소디 규투야스 가야 말하다 도시네 매바체 안에 규투야 매나가 매바체네 판도가 가려라서 지어봐다 이제 다디 삼식이와 되네기 매네 매바체네 가르판도라서네 매바지기 지도 신다데는 아주 전에 바 림바디 바 삼다 디네션 파 부두 메바 지기 장도 치디 안주게 아니 니메지 코바 야야야 조디 되는 것으로 바 들지지기 동반이 또 롱원에 게야다 롱원은 기네 디콤발에 되네 안 동반이 또 로호롱야 안 들지지 구용어 규투야 안 디기 겐게 안주게 내지 진 랩토바디 용어서 연구하러 와다 지금 남방 알아서 디도 메바지네 장고를 지상 알아주게 디르바당 저기 베네 가서래 지게 참차야를 장고나 당보 예인디 팔랍디가 당보고는 예인디 타바나징한 탑싱 말와 지사디 장기 때고 마싱 바이나야 안도 장기 간섬질이야 야야야도는 니미지 예인디게 랍게 참랍한 코로나 나신징 아주 탑싱해지 레투그로와 니 나신 아주 당보 코로나도 메바도 동방이 삼다도 진짜 동방이 야네 야도 삼다도 되니 동방이 또 별로리 계기 고갑라고로 고 야네 야도 삼다도 안 되네 지는 오면도 로디 파지네 니미지가 하는 거죠 야야도도 되네 아주기 또 검디 갑라 삼당이 당이제도 되네 삼당이 림바디기나 다된 아주래 직도 스칼레요와 되네 칼레요 안도 림바 삼당 균에 뒤에 망부 고고와 나도 쟁이 삼다디네 림바 살답다바 레라라라 신제 안 뒤에 통노 지나야 차상하지 꼬라 코르도 살다 투어 지금 거와 되네 살다 투야다 되네 살다야 돼 미바디게 바 땐 줘야다 안되네 삼다 땐 줘도 아주 이야기를 되니 니미지 간소리야 안디 아주 원예랑 동반이 또 비기 시기 딩안에 도시지 공원에 규투바지 도시의 연구를 와서 되네자 당번에 가서 도시는 림바지 장도를 해야 되게 침벌해야지 되네자 가서 삼다야 돼 도시네 이런 게 되네 샤샤나
So the sequence of the meditation, as you do here in Guru Puja, is you start with the second verse. So you first start with the visualization. As I mentioned, it's in a condensed form last week. You visualize your Lama in the aspect of Geshe Rinpoche with Buddha Shakyamuni at his heart and Vajradhara at his heart. And you yourself are surrounded by sentient beings in their human form. And all of you turn towards your Lama, and you generate first bodhicitta, and thereafter you go for refuge with the determination to cultivate the minds of the Dharma within oneself, so that one can become attain the state of Buddhahood, or the other way to understand it, so that one can become just like one's Lama. And in this way, then one goes for refuge with verses 2 and 3. And then generate bodhicitta and the powerful motivation of Tantra, which is in this very life, in fact, in this very retreat, I will become a Buddha. And thereafter one comes to the verse number 1, which is where one meditates on emptiness. And one generates great bliss based on one's prior realization of emptiness, realizes emptiness anew, and arises as the deity, and thereby blesses the world and its being and the beings, transforming them into a pure land and bodhisattvas. So that is the meditation, but the reality is for us, we just do this on a level of aspiration. So there's going to be the question then, what is the purpose of doing a meditation such as this, where we generate great bliss based on our prior realization of emptiness, but there's not really great bliss arising in our continuum. And then we realize emptiness and we arise as the deity, but we're not really doing that. So is there any point to doing this? Well, the approach I encourage you to take here is to have the attitude of someone who wants to be a skilled dancer. A skilled dancer will find a good dance instructor and study with their dance instructor. And we can imagine, maybe some of you have this experience, you first have to learn the sequence of moves and to try and do them in the right sequence and with the right timing. And it's quite embarrassing, it's really difficult, and nothing really comes of it. But through persevering, slowly you start to get quite skilled. And then you start to become really good at this, and eventually you become as good as your dance instructor. So that is the same approach to take here. Whilst for now, we're doing this practice on a level of aspiration, and we're just merely intellectually recognizing, okay, great bliss is arising, and now I'm using that consciousness to realize emptiness anew, to realize the emptiness of the self, and from the wisdom realizing selflessness, I rise as Yamantaka. So it's all on a level of aspiration for now. So I encourage you, though, to do the meditation, even though it's only on the level of aspiration. It's because through starting and persevering, change will come. Greater skill will come through habituation, especially as one takes in the other teachings and other meditations one may do, and all that skill is drawn together here. And slowly, over time, a meditation such as this takes quite a lot of time. But as one becomes more experienced, whereas before one would have to meditate for quite a while on emptiness to gain an understanding, or on refuge or on bodhicitta, as one becomes more skilled, that level of realization will come about so much more quickly. So by persevering, eventually one will come to the point where emptiness will be realized, and that consciousness, that wisdom that realizes emptiness, will have the strength that one can, with greater conviction, arise as a deity and be of benefit, be of blessing in our world. So thank you. We'll finish here tonight, and next week we'll start with blessing in offering. But if you have some questions, then feel free to ask. If you need to go, feel free to go.
I'm just wondering, it's not directly related to this question, but in the Three Principal Aspects course, when you were talking about dependent origination and emptiness, you mentioned there are two different meditations. So I'm not entirely sure if I'm asking the question properly, but meditating on dependent origination, you're seeing how, if it's of self, or not of myself, it's looking at seeing the aggregates and sensations in the body and thoughts and so on, seeing how they're all dependent on each other, and seeing that there's not someone that is experiencing them. They're all experiencing each other, so to speak. So the emptiness meditation is said to be different to that. I'm not quite sure how that's different, because when I'm seeing that dependently arising, I'm seeing that they're empty. But I'm not sure about which one is the emptiness meditation, which is which. And secondly, if I come to the teaching, for example, and I'm thinking I'm coming to the teaching, obviously there's not this me coming to the teaching. There's something that's drawing me here, like maybe some wisdom in the mind stream, or something that wants to escape suffering, or that sees something. How do I refer to myself? Or how do I think of myself, seeing that I'm saying that there's not really a self in that sense?
I got the questions. I'm not going to repeat it because it's quite long. No, it's fine. But I'll just give it straight again in Tibetan because it was quite loud. I hope everyone heard. Okay.
Jisa tenje sede samdadu manzo tongpo yin toya de tongpo yin sede longa le karakaos na gacha tempo chupa de ka horwa gacha tempo chupa sede Gangla Yama to Rango Juba Jindangor. Sesang Tinti sometimes Shan Dun Juba Resha, save how going to Cheshan Dun Juba Resha, some lot how going to any Nang Sudi, Rang Gangla Rango Juba Mindu Sembe some legal, just that the Mindu Sembe some Toyadi, Tajibelogi, the Tomba to Belosigua. Says Tinjin Jawa, Nambo Tinjin Jawa, Yoba some Dangoro. Says the Yoba some the Shanjil Dun Juba Jores and sometimes. Chisnada, di how go to Gangla Yamatu Rango to the Mindu Sambek, some of the jail Ligorova, di jail di Mindu Sembe, some of the Tomba, some tableau check or Ejerua, Dini the Cabatiche. That aging has a da Mindu said, da now and Nashin, da di Dakshin Zena, Gangla Yamatu big daddy Yomare, di daddy Yomare. Mena and daddy got us yours in Pumbong about Gangro Panu, Patabats, Patabats, Yobare. She's on Louis Tabats and me daddy, Yores. She's on Louis Tabats and me daddy, down to a coil dress as San Diego top said, Louis Tabats and me daddy, shall Yores. That damn me said, Gangla Yamatu Rango when you took again daddy Yomares. Smato, Louis Tabats and me daddy Yomares and Yomare, daddy Yores. Jesanga said the Churon Su Yonting said the Gangla Mato Rango when the dripping hearty Yomare said. And the Carriers and Sosorang Pumpol Pa, Lupa tapping at the Yore and at some the Yores, Lu Tabats and at the Yores.
The meditation has the same starting point, and then the two orders of sequence one can engage in. And when one becomes skilled in one goes to the other, and then does the two one after the other in altering sequence. So the starting point is always to identify the object of negation, the object to be negated, which is how the self appears, which usually is expressed as it appears to be truly existent, which means independent. The self appears as if it is independent or not reliant on anything at all. So that's how it appears, as if there's this self-existent self, something that exists by its own essence or nature. So that's how it appears. There really is something that is me. Yeah? So that's the object of negation, that there's this real self that appears, that's unchanging, that's always there, that beneath all the change, there is an essence. That is the way the self appears. There is a real me, a true me. So that's the object of negation. Then it's approached in one of two orders. Either first, cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness, and thereafter dependent arising, or the opposite. First, cultivate dependent arising, and thereafter the wisdom realizing emptiness. So either method, right? And then eventually both would be done. This sequence, then that sequence. So to present the two then, the self, we first need to recognize how it appears as this real self, an actual self that exists, that's always there beneath the surface. So we need to see if that self exists in the way that it appears or not. Is this appearance in accordance with reality or not? Is the way of appearing in accordance with the way of existing, in reality? So this is what you want to see. So if we're approaching first with dependence arising, and thereafter with emptiness, we can recognize that the self, however we think of it, say through the aggregates, the body and the mind, clearly is dependent on causes, it's dependent on parts, and it's dependent on imputation by mind. So I'm just saying it in brief, but you would go through an analysis to establish that. So you'd say, the self does not exist in the way that it appears. You first say the self exists, but dependently on those three things: causes, parts, imputation. So it does exist, but in this way. How it doesn't exist is the way it appears, as independent, because you've already established it as being dependent. So therefore it doesn't exist independent or truly or by inherently. So therefore, it is now empty of existing truly or inherently, or by way of its own essence. So therefore we first realize how it does exist dependently, and thereafter it's empty or doesn't exist in the way that it appears as truly existent. The other way then is first, so that's dependent arising followed by emptiness. To first realize emptiness and then dependent arising, the self appears as truly existent, an independent entity. So you search for it in the body, you search for it in the mind, and you don't find it anywhere. There's, no matter how deep you go to within the body or within the mind, you can't find the self. So even though we identify at times with our body, and that this body, this size, this shape, whatever is me, we can't find a me within the size or shape or anything in the body. And likewise, we identify with aspects of our personality. You know, I'm like this, I'm like that. We can't find ourselves in this at all. So we don't exist in the way that we appear as independent. So we're empty of existing in the way that we appear. So here emptiness is realized, but that doesn't mean we don't exist at all. We exist dependently on causes, parts, imputation. So here in the second technique, first emptiness is realized, then dependent arising. The first technique was the other way around, dependent arising and emptiness. And then you can play with the two together like that. Okay? And then how do you refer to yourself? I don't exist how I appear. Nothing exists to me how it appears. Every object of thought appears to exist truly. Nothing exists in that way. But it does exist dependently.
Can I just follow that up very quick? When I refer to myself I, it feels like there's a problem there, because I know you have to refer to yourself as something, but it doesn't feel, it makes it difficult for some reason. I don't know if that could be addressed in a way. I don't exist as I appear, kind of makes it again feel like that sense of independent self, or sorry, inherently existing self is there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there's time to I wonder if there's a way of approaching that.
We have time. If anyone doesn't, feel free to go, but we have time. Then die har gezond toetsen. Dan je zoals dan tildu raak mare o. Temperatup na mepa yin. Na temperatup mare na mepa yin na temperatup mare. Yini nga yore den jol yin. Den die har gezond kan die tanto song. Den ini nga temperatup me. Nagi kola keshe. Nga year, tendril year. In tadung agi kola kesusegi year. And it is gelden nangsin sankido. Is it tadung year?
Tadung year samyadi sugi pal mada macheba macheba mada macheba ina kupungpol palwe tapa zen yore setting as in the years. Dane jeba ina jeba chena nye meeting as chegruwa. Jezangon nangchu de ne su mitin bare se korong nga se di ngui ni su le kan ni yore se shen chi le de ne pa le pa da ba zhe mi yo de ma do de ni xue ngui ni su de ni xue je nga su le sam lo na le nang du de ka le sam lo na du ka sang sam na nga ha se sam lo ko de korong pung bo dang le pa da ba ma de korong ngui ni ye de ba xin nang go le ji zan ding yi tun go ma le che ji zan dan ding yi de na de ge gi den ba de ge ge le lam na 先起了对呢略大呢约把的点把来的我那的我有的是下掉的这刚来嘛就把先刚来嘛就可能我那边那话那心的有嘛的的那水的点不住那水的的有嘛的是我有嘛的是的我说的我的了破民家法律大话这么的我说的没法去修嘛越记得越的这个就是他刚来嘛就把让我呢就把说的有嘛的是这样就这的开始这个是呢 가라에 그 로레야 가르스 능구도 나와 나신지 두개 민도 세베 제고 그러와 그래서 나와 나신데 녀요 말이지
that you experiencing this almost contradiction. If you continue or as you continue, then this will start to clear up, because what is difficult here is we investigated this expression, appearance and reality. Everything that appears to us appears in a particular way, but it does not exist in that way in reality. So here we're talking about the self, but everything we think of, every object of thought, appears true to us, real to us. That there is some kind of real existence to the object, to the person, to the philosophical view. But in reality, it doesn't exist in that way. In that way. So it comes down to this, that when we don't investigate, there are all these appearances, and they're there. When we investigate, they're not there in that way. So we come to see through reflecting repeatedly that the way things appear is the fault. And our grasping at it compounds that fault. But slowly, this will separate, and we'll start to see the appearance not being in accordance with reality, but we'll be understanding reality better. And it won't deceive us as much. So, in brief, I and other phenomena exist, but dependently. I and other phenomena do not exist in the way they appear independently. So there's this discord between appearance and reality. And with experience, that becomes more navigatable. Let me put it that way. Okay? And thank you. Thank you.